Hey everybody, we are teaching Tilt Brush, and this time on Tilt Brush we're going to have some fun making cartoons and anime characters. How to use Tilt Brush to do that style of art, and I promise it won't be too scary. So we're going to look at this, approaching it in two different ways. The first way we're going to look at it is drawing a cartoon or anime character as a flat picture. Almost doing it in just plain 2D using our virtual reality tools. For those of you who haven't done a lot of VR art or haven't done a lot of anime, keeping it 2D to start with will give you a lot more control and a lot less things to worry about just getting the colors and the lines in the right places. Now, once you're starting to get good at it, the second way we're going to look at it is bringing that into more of a 3D. Actually make an anime you can start to walk around in. A lot of the new ones use a lot of CGI with models and things. So again, we'll use the Tilt Brush tools to do that style of cartoon or anime look. For this look, one of the things that makes it so sharp and clear, we're talking about a little more old school anime as opposed to some of the new, more painterly versions. We're going to look at the flat, bright colors. We're going to look at getting outlines, sharp outlines around things. So even if I do a painterly smooth background, my characters have that drawn outline look. There are a few tools that are going to make this a lot easier. We're going to use a lot of the Cell Vinyl tool. Oops, that's in black, because you'll notice the Cell Vinyl tool comes with its own outline. As I draw things, you can see it comes already with its own outline, giving us that sharp, clear look. The other related tool to this is Toon. The Toon tool also has its own outline. It's an actual 3D tube. You can make it different sizes, bigger and smaller, depending on the line you want, but it's got its own outline. And these guys hold their outline if you look at them from any different angle. So these are two of the important tools we're going to use for this style of art. Now, because it's flat colors, most of our other tools will also give us a little bit of a problem because they're going to have things like shadows and highlights, which can be really tough to work with. Especially the ones that are painting in strokes, it's really hard to make this look like a smooth surface. So here's a case where we're going to be bringing in our unlit tools. We have that episode we did about lit and unlit tools. We're going to use these unlit tools because these are the ones that paint in color with no shadow or highlight whatsoever. So as I turn this around, you can see it's still using my three-dimensional painting. But since there's no shadow or highlight, it turns into just flat color. We can use this to cover things over, to fill in space without adding extra shadows, that type of thing. Now, instead of using the actual highlight for shadows, now I'm actually going to go in with just a slightly darker green and do some shadowing that way, using color for highlight and shadow. Yes, we have a whole episode about that as well, but we'll be using some of those techniques for this particular episode, making cartoons and anime. So now that I've got all this talk about it, I'm going to do some examples using these tools to do some cartoon style effects. And I'm just going to do the classic eyeball because every character, most characters have eyes, that type of thing. And it's good for a demonstration. So I'm going to get just using the flat unlit tool. In this case, it's using the marker tools. I'm just going to get a region of color so that I can make an eye against that color. Now this is just using the 2D effect. So if I rotate sideways, you can see it's not just a perfect flat wall, but from this angle, it's just a big field of color. So now I can draw against this color. I'm assuming my viewer isn't going to be trying to look around behind it. So an eye in cartoons tends to be the white with a black outline. So I'm going to switch to my Cell Vinyl with a white color because that just by default gives me white with an outline, depending on the size and the shape. Now I'm going to manipulate the size of my field and the size of my brush. So I can change what size and shape I want this eye to be. There we go. Classic standard anime eye. Again, using the cell vinyl, I'm going to give it a color. We're going to do a nice deep brown. But with cell vinyl, it's got the outline. So again, what size, what shape do I want this to be? There are lots of ways of getting that, and the more time you take, the more accurate you can get your shape. Now, since we're using unlit tools, if I want it perfectly round, you can see the cell vinyl itself is sort of teardrop, but I could do a circle. But you say, what about that inside part? What about these parts? Now we switch to our unlit marker, and we can just cover that over. Since it's unlit, I don't have to be right up against the surface. Since it's unlit, if I do rotate, you can see how it's various painted surfaces. But as long as I keep this mostly between you and the camera, I can go back in and fill in those points. So now you can't really tell that it's not just brown with a black outline. The pupil, I'm just going to switch the same unlit brush to black. So far, so good. Now we're anime here, so let's get there we go. Eyelashes, go to black. I want the pointed end. Let's make this kind of big. We'll start behind the eye. There. So using these unlit tools, I can use the color to define highlight and shadow. Now, okay, let's grab this skin tone. I'm going to make it slightly deeper, slightly darker. There we go. Now we'll get it slightly lighter. So I'm using the color in a flat situation to get these cartoon anime styles. The actual placement, the actual shape of the face is going to be up to you. And that's going to take a lot of practice. But these flat unlit tools, the marker tools, cell vinyl, and tune are the main ways we can get that lovely black outline right following the color without manually doing it yourself. Let's add one more that's going to bother me, so let's do this one more little bit here. Too big. Pointed. But now you can see how you can get obsessive about this type of thing, trying to get just the look you're going for. Cartoon styles using our tilt brush. Now this part is all using the two-dimensional mentality. If I try rotating this sideways, you can see how it goes sort of Picasso and starts falling into pieces. Actually, this one wasn't too bad. I'm getting pretty good at getting this close together, but you can see the different levels, see the different layers here. So I want to take this and bring it more three-dimensional, so I can make a more of a scene that the person can walk around, or make a character that I can pivot and move around and still feel that way. So I'm going to keep this guy off to the side as my model for what an eye looks like in cartoon. And now I'm going to do a three-dimensional one. One of the things that's going to make your life a lot easier is using the guides. I'm going to choose on PC as of September 2020, I'm going to use the ellipsoid guide, because this is going to give me a good shape for a head. Thank you, guides. Make that a little bit head-shaped. Let's stretch it out this way. I like the ellipsoid because you can get very creative. I can make somebody with a big, tall, skinny head. I can make somebody with a wide, round head, that type of thing. But now that I've got my ellipsoid, I'm going to go back to my flesh tone unlit. Flesh tone unlit. And fill it in. Now I've got a three-dimensional shape that I know is going to work. At this point, I could go in and start doing extra embellishments, hair and things like that. For this case, because the hair isn't supposed to be stuck to the head, I'm going to temporarily use the toggle, hide my guide. And I'm going to use the flat, unlit hull brush. So I can make hair that goes in 3 dimensions. So as I rotate the head around, we can see how the hair, now it's unlit. Let's get a ponytail in here. It's unlit, so it's still very cartoon and flat. So let's reactivate the guide, take this in my more shadowy color, a little shadow in here, a little shadow in there. If you're see in my case how it's getting a little broken up, so I'm going to grab this guide and I can either move it a little bit or just make it a little bit bigger, keeping it as lined up as possible. So now it covers it up. Now it is flat brush, so that it itself has no highlight and shadow. But you can see from afar, it allows me to move it around and keep that feeling of highlight and shadow. Now I'm going to grab that purple, but I'm going to go for a slightly darker shade of purple in my unlit regular brush. Let's hide that guide so I can add undertones, shadows. Again, it's 3-dimensional. But because I'm using these flat, unlit brushes, it helps keep all the pieces together. It helps read as still one piece. There we go. I'm even going to go so far as to take that eye. Let's grab my selection. And grab the eye and the shadow behind the eye. Put one here. Flip that around. Put it over here. And now we're starting to get this cartoon a little bit off. We're starting to get these. Okay, so I apologize for the people who were afraid it was going to get scary. It looks like we're getting scary. But now you can start to see how we're using color. We're using these unlit tools so that we can make sure the shadows appear where we want them to appear. And now we're getting these cartoon styles, bringing more into the 3D world. Yeah, it's getting a little scary, a little weird, so let's get rid of those last pieces. So that's how we're getting cartoon anime styles using tilt brush tools. Unlit brushes using things like guides for the shape, or just using the shape of the tool to allow us to put the color where we want. Unlit means we don't have to worry about the lighting in the environment itself. Even if I switch to different environments, let's try this in space. It's got unlit, so it's got the same color qualities. Let's try it in the snowman. There's my snowman with a giant eyeball behind it. But again, the cartoon color effects help keep it from becoming a three-dimensional piece, from seeing all those brush strokes. Let's try even one of the exotics like pistachio. Now here's a case, the reason why we're losing color, pistachio is using fog. If I play with the fog levels, we can start to see our colors coming back. So if we are doing these cartoon anime pieces, we can take advantage of that, have things fade out in the background using the fog for those types of effects. If we want to keep the whole thing feeling sharp, make sure you've got your fog set all the way down to 0 so all the color doesn't fade out as it moves farther away. So that's what we're talking about this time. Cartoon and anime effects use the tilt brush tools, specifically Cell Vinyl. Toon, you'll notice, I didn't actually use it very much in this one, but I could have done the hair effects if I actually want that black outline effect. Now that I've used the matte to put it together, I might as well get the Toon in here while we're here. Let's get that purplish color. But now using the Toon, I can start doing lots of different lines and shapes. And because of the way the brush is made, you can see how it puts in the outlines and changes the outlines depending on the angle of view. So if I went up to this ponytail, you can see as long as you're overlapping, you have a lot of control over which lines show up. Let's make a couple of loose hairs here. Anime characters always have a couple of loose hairs going across the face, that type of thing. Oops, that's a little too big. So you can see how the Toon is another way I can draw in 3 dimensions for that cartoon outline type of feel. If you practice and get good with this, you can do arms by actually making muscle groups, deltoids, biceps, triceps, that type of thing, so that when the viewer moves around the shape, it's got that a little bit more contiguous outline showing where those groups are, that type of thing. Quick 30-second example, it's hard to see, but you see what I'm getting at as far as using the Toon brush to define the overall shape. We can actually make the Toon brush pretty big in this case to get a little more smooth outlines here. But keeping the black outline depending on the angle you look. Okay, Toon brush, unlit hull brush, unlit marker brushes. These are all different ways to get our cartoon anime effect using tilt brush tools. Hopefully this inspires you and gives you new things to try in your own artwork. Feel free to link in your artwork in the comments below. Likewise, let us know if you've got any questions or comments about what we've done or other ways you can think of using these cool tools. We're going to be doing this on a weekly basis here on youtube.com/shamelessmayhem. We hope to see you every week. I'll disappear in here. There we go. We hope to see you every week and have a lot of fun with your tilt brush.